So we're eagerly awaiting Lydia to join the meeting and show Apple things. But maybe we should get started and she will catch us along the way. So welcome everyone to this session, September 2025 of Wednesdays with MDriven, where we go through some changes and additions and questions and answers. At least I'm taking notes of any questions so I can get back to you later on. Any questions up front that we should address? Otherwise, we can just have a glance. You see my screen, right? Because I'm sharing. Yeah. On the wiki, it's fairly clear that there are things happening constantly. So all the check-in comments from our work is showing up here in different logs. This is for the framework, and of course the code is heavily shared between framework and designer, so one needs to look around a bit to see all the things. But that's and then each month we put some effort into compiling release notes where we summarize these more minutes and then we have those somewhere at the wikis where
just click the release notes at the very top. In the top, yeah,
this one, and then we have the ones that goes this goes into the newsletter as well. But since these are lagging a bit, it can be good to check these for recent changes. And what we talk about here are most often recent changes. So one of the things that we have put some effort into is the live edit. We have had that from before, but what we have changed, let's see what it did now. This Blazor option. So if we just pick a UI here, and sometimes I'm on the wrong button. So this is the live edit and this is the view edit. But the Blazor button is available for both. And what's the difference between Blazor and Angular, which is the unBlazor, if we uncheck this? Well, it shouldn't be much difference in how it looks. So our aim is that these should be pretty much the same, but there might be small differences still. The Angular still has the bug not to write just numbers automatically, but the Blazor does not have that bug. When we did the live edit, it greatly simplifies how we can move around things when it comes to UI. But there was always a bit of blinking and things that happened when we dragged a column to another, and that's something that I've tried to mitigate, to lessen, to make it more smooth once we move things. What happens now is actually, you can see a bit of green label down here saying processing, is that we try to hide the worst blink effects as the DOM is rewriting, and by a trick, namely that when we drop here, we take a snapshot of how it looks now and put that snapshot up front and then wait for the DOM to respond, and then we remove the snapshot. So I think that's a pretty good way to increase the feeling of the edit, to make it a little bit more smooth. And as we did that for Blazor, that turned out to also be usable for the angler. So we have put that on angler as well. So that has become less blinky as a side effect for doing the Blazor edit. So, but basically it doesn't matter if you edit in Blazor or Angular still, because it depends on what you choose to do in runtime, and that's a separate choice. It's just the editor in this case.
By making it just a little bit less real time, it got less distracting. That's nice.
So a little bit sluggish when the control is dropping, but less because this part always went in and out, and that sort of disturbed the eye. And of course this is how it looks when it's grid based, but usually we doing UIs that want to be proud of, we will most often use placing containers. And that has been that leads me into the some other changes that we have made during this month, because switching from this grid based, which is orderly now, everything is placed like this, and I just switched to a placing container, and then I sort of lose all that order, and I'm back on square one. I need to put some effort into making it look okay again. And we put some tools here on the VPF editor to help with this. So this is how it looks after I'm turning on placing containers. But then we had this question, can't I see how it looked when it was grid based? Because that would act like a template for me to help me know what, because if this is a large UI, I will immediately forget how it looked. And that was a fairly good idea. So we put some tools that shows up once we are in placing container edit. So we can check this box, and then we get the old grid-based part of the view model edit here. And if that doesn't suit us to have it on the side, we can also put it, depending on what kind of size the UI is, we can put it below. Lars, you have a question?
Where is that stored? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's no mystery actually, because the X position and Y position is not actually used for placing containers, so we don't overwrite it. So that's still there. But this also gets the effect that we can, well, this sort of helps us with the memory, but it's still a challenge to sort of get the placing containers to mimic this in a good way. Yes, I need to put, I think I should have this on the side because it's that kind of UI. Make it a little bit bigger. So then I thought we should have a mode to help us understand the placing containers, because now when I see this, I know that I will need one placing container for this, another for this, a third for this, etc. So of course I can mimic that just pushing buttons in this tree, but what if we have a tool like this that only shows us the placing container structure? It removes all the controls and just focuses on the placing containers for a moment. So that means that I probably want, I would go like this, 2 more columns, and those, we work with the colors, same as in the live edit, that there's a specific color per level. And in this upper one, I want probably 2 rows. So in this one, I want a row and a row. Or do I want that? Maybe I want this one to, so this helps me in seeing that, no, that's not what I want. I actually want the this one above to be a column, so I can get these next to each other to target these into this one and these into that one. And so this is a good tool for me to just work on placing container level on any level. And then it would be neat if we could, if we have this, just take these and say that this one should go here, and that one should also go here, and then they move over here. And then it would be good if we have a definition of which ones are correctly placed and which ones that we haven't actually dealt with yet. And my definition of correctly placed is the ones that are on a leaf placing container at the very end. There's no other placing containers on the same levels. Like these are on, these are not clean because they share their level with other placing containers. So that's my definition of not done yet. So then we introduce this, hide the columns that are correctly placed from this one. So if I check this, I can see which one I should work on. So these are not done yet. So I want that one to go here, and I want this one to go here, and I want this one to go here, and I want this one to go here. So that helps me in moving from here, from grid-based to placing container-based. I haven't actually moved them. They are still there if I turn this off. So I can always go back and see how it looked. But it's a thing to help me do this cleanup and restructure. Yes, Derek?
One of the issues I've had when migrating from the grid-based system to the placing container system, it's not an issue necessarily, but maybe it's a misunderstanding of how things are supposed to work, is when you are moving, say, a text, just an editor control, and it has the label component to it, and it has the editor itself. And in the old system, you had a column for the, you could say how many columns the label contained and how many columns. In the placing container, it doesn't seem to handle obviously the labels in the same way. And I've always usually had to, if the label is to the left of the actual control, I've had to make a separate column sometimes for a bunch of labels, or as for the controls. Am I missing a trick here, or is that just the standard practice for the placing containers?
So some while ago we sort of stopped using the label on the side and promoting label on top. So I think we haven't looked at label on the side a lot. So you can turn this in runtime as well. In VPF, there's a setting on view model placing container control. No, view model VPF control, that there's a property called label on top, and that will have the labels on top in runtime as well. And then it should be okay, I believe. So if it isn't, you should report that.
I'll check it out. Thank you.
So once I can turn this off, and then I see that I've done the work. Of course, I want to do more work with this. Maybe yes. Now I see when I can go back and forth here, but this is probably, and these are besides each other, and they should be on top of each other if they should look like this. So heading. I'm gonna head back here and say that in this one I actually also want a column, and then I can move these ones down to here and see how, oh, this one. So then I'm more to the point here, but of course this one wasn't very nicely.
Is that a new thing, that you can drag many at once? Because I've been struggling with that.
Yes, it has been a bit buggy, but I think it's okay now.
Sweet.
Yeah, okay, and this row probably should span the whole like that, and I don't like that this one is covering all the height, so that should be yeah, on that placing. One way would be to also add a column to this to make them equally complex like this. And then I'm more back to how it looked before. In the web edit, not sure. The placing containers are rendered like this, and then of course we are free to move those about as we see fit. There might still, we can do, there may be errors because we try to do something which isn't allowed, but that's should be reported up here to explain what's going on. How about that? Pretty nice, right?
I'm surprised that this ability to work with flex boxes, which this is basically, isn't more widely available, because I was struggling really before we had the built-in tool to find something where I could like intelligently move things around in a flex box structure. So, but maybe it's difficult to do this if you don't have actual controls with actual data. Because then it becomes very difficult to see what you have actually constructed. So at least nowadays, I always run it with data right away, like this, because then it's very quick.
Yes. So this is the live edit, which means that it's hooked up to data, and that's very good unless you actually change the model, because then you might get out of sync with the server. And for to mimic more like the VPF editor, which is not with data, it's just the idea of the layout. We have this option, the view edit, where it runs without data and it just uses 3 rows in each grid, and then that works the same way, should do anyway. That if it loses tracks, one might need to.
But it's quite robust. The only thing that happens is that you don't see the columns that are backed by model elements that is not there from the model perspective. So I found it robust. I'm especially happy with that you can add actions and opt in and opt out right away. And also I think we should mention that it's because this is an MDriven based backing the whole editor, you can have 2 views up and you can just change in another view on another screen, for example. That's usually how you do it. Then you are free to rumble about doing things, and then you just see it here. So you can it's easy to have 2, and there you have the opt-outs and opt-ins of actions and things like it. So then it really speed it up.
So you mean like this, if you have the VPF editor?
Yes, and then you have the actions flipped out here, and you click opt out. It just reloads right away in the web view, and you can work on your action availability very easy.
And if you want more of these windows for the same session, one can now hold control while pressing this to get multiple views of this one.
I know we've mentioned this. I just want to pile on some tips and tricks here. Press F12 here, the Chrome debugger. I'm just saying this is as a general thing, and then you can also use the Chrome debugger to change CSS and those things right where you're doing it, or analyze anything in your styling. Really helpful for finding out what might be wrong. So even though it's inside the MDriven Designer, this is connected there, so you can do that. And you can also, of course, open another browser and just copy the URL, and then you can have another browser, Chrome or whatever you want, connecting to the same session, and that one will also reload automatically and show the latest design things. So it's really flexible that way. I find that very helpful too. Yeah. One thing that I find more and more useful, I can mention, Hans, which I don't think we have, is the ability to right click or click on an action and say, I want a button for this.
Yeah.
So now you
Yes.
have to spend a whole 30 seconds, right? On
But-
something that others would take hours to do. But when you have fast, you want faster. So that would be really handy.
And also fairly new is that I put the menu here. So first, whenever you click one of the orange dots, it highlights in the tree, and when you click in the tree, it highlights in the view. But then the menu is here, so what you can do here is actually add a new column, so you can bring in things straight away where you want them.
And what I wanted here more than that is if you click add column here, and then it's add action column, it should be one of those that expands the same way as other things, so I can pick which action.
Because what you are after is not only a button, but then you need to go here and say that this button really should be connected to this left side action. So when
I'm a bit lazy there. It takes several clicks. When it's just, it would be very nice because it's a choop, 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 choop.
Yeah, worth thinking about. Cool. And maybe it's even so that, you can right click on the placing containers to add a child placing container if that's something that you want right in the here, and then you can just pull in things that way.
I know I'm saying these things, and I should have done this before, but again, you can right click there, Hans, and show the add from model, which I realize that I've been using too little going back. One should really use that more than I did. Add
column and then
add from
pick from model,
which is super powerful. Then you can navigate any amount.
Of course, so then you can go away to see, well, I don't want the thing, I want something on a subclass if available, or if I
even over a multi-link, and then you add just as comma text, comma list at the end, and then what you have done is you have navigated, you have grabbed the attribute, and then even converted into a text string that you can use. So
pull that over here. That one should go in this one, and so we're getting closer to not leaving the application, leaving it running and designing it. It's like, have you seen that kind of brain surgery where they don't put the patient to sleep because they need to know what they touch? So you need to be awake during operations. It's like that during surgery. So is Lydia in the house? Maybe she's.
Well, I saw her sign on at least.
I'm here. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you feel up for taking the screen and showing us what you've been up to?
Well, I could share something.
Yeah. Let's see how we do this. You press the present button to share your screen.
I think she can just present over you.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Hi, guys. So today I'm supposed to give you a quick update on what's been happening in our camp. And I could say we've successfully tested MDriven Designer on Mac OS Intel chip. The setup uses Wine Stable version 10, along with, of course, the local MDriven Designer installer, the .exe. While it's not officially supported, it works well and is reproducible, which is a good thing. So in a few minutes, I will be showing you a short clip that walks through the installation. That is basically installing Wine via the homebrew and running the MDriven Designer installer, it's really simple and straightforward. But either way, regardless of how this goes, there will be a full step-by-step guide that will be uploaded to our YouTube page, then the wiki and the blog once we've polished it up a little bit. But maybe before I play the video, I could highlight some of the fun things we can do with the designer on Mac OS. From my brief experience, I can say almost everything apart from a few. Of course, community testing is welcome, so you guys can take a spin at it and share with us feedback, and then we can update on that. But I don't want to speak a lot, so let me just play a video first so you guys can take a look and see what I'm talking about. And then I will do a very brief walkthrough of the actual setup as is on Mac OS system. Are we able to see my screen?
I don't see it now. Have you successfully shared? Maybe I've stopped presenting it may help.
Well,
Okay.
now we're back at looking at Hans. And there's Lydia.
Let me just try again.
Yeah, I was also thinking if there's a like.
It's interesting. Are you able something went wrong? Try restarting your browser. Oh boy. Okay. Just a few minutes, maybe.
Yeah, okay. We can. Any other gigantic news that has happened for anyone? Want to share?
Well, I can fill the space with some talking, what we are doing. So we are going to again shift our support a bit from one tool to another. I hope that means that we will be faster at replying and doing things. We want to merge it into our general task tool. Hope it doesn't cause any disruptions. We're also finalizing the new university course with Victoria University. It's interesting. I think I've mentioned it before that we're working with them because they want a university course that covers UML, as all universities do basically, and now they have a play button. So hopefully that will lead to a course that can be taken remotely for non-developers really, and then there will be 3 certification levels for people taking the course who want to be certified using MDriven. So what would that maybe mean for you guys that have been with it for long? Well, it will enable you to have access to people that are hopefully already skilled if you don't have time to do everything, every development yourself. So our goal is to create a directory, you could say, of certified MDriven staff or people able to help you. And hopefully more than this group listens to this. So this is a way for us to increase offering and the availability of modeling. And I think everyone who shows up here wants modeling and model-driven development to spread. So we hope that is a good thing. So and to do that also, Hans have launched a new series of YouTube videos that I think you should have a look at. And that is how to create a service as software as a service thing, and generating basically an idea and asking an AI, how should it work? And then he's following along there. So that would be one way for you to look on how you go from nothing to something online as a service with our tools. And in the same spirit of making the AI tell us how things should work, because AIs are good, right, on how it generally works. So in that spirit, we're also going to have a launch event, it looks like, where I will be one of the contestants against students at Victoria University. And they can use JavaScript if they wish to use that to try to build something as quickly as possible. So how it will work as we think right now is that the AI will come up with ideas on what to build, and then we'll all vote and say, yes, this is what we want to build. And then in like 3-4 hours, everyone builds that idea as quickly as possible into something that is executable and good. And the only exception is that you can't use completely AI generated software. You're fine to use AI to help you, but not only AI generated. And then it's like, yeah, okay, but why? Are you afraid of the competition? Well, no, not really, because today at least AI can generate something that can be used and maintained. It's hello world on steroids. It isn't really something that can be maintained and used over time. So because this is something that is quick, so you could say you could be outcompeted by the first iteration AI. Yes, you could definitely be. But that's not what the point we want to prove here. We want to prove that you can build something that has actual value for a company over time. And that can't really be done yet with AI. And you can't disprove that in 4 hours. So that's the thing. We hope to then make some email you about that, and you can see me battle the students of the university. Some of them have already worked 1 year with MDriven, and some might not, may be only brand new, and some might want to take up the fight with traditional development. And I mean, if one of you here wants to be in that competition, I'm sure you can also join in, and you can fight with everyone else there to build something, we don't know what yet, as quickly as possible. So
that would be stressful, at least.
But maybe Damien has reached that point now that he's like, yeah, I'll beat them on quick clicking in the designer. Who knows? I mean, you're in that learning curve, right, Damien? In other news, we have hired a new sales. I think maybe he was here. I think he will present more. So why is this is a tech talk? Yes, it is mostly tech talking, but I think we also it might be interesting to know what we are doing, not for selling to you, but more like sales contacts or sales requirements will make, for example, more example models available. And that's what we also want to encourage everyone that is in the university courses to create more working models. Not only super complicated ones like the Hans is showing in this new video series, but also simpler things. All right, have you shared, Lydia? I don't see it. I'm waiting for you to share.
Yeah, and when you shared, Lydia, it looked like you shared the presentation, so it got a little mirrored. But are you ready to try again?
Let me play it from the browser so I don't have issues. I hope that works for us. Let's just go, let's do a quick skim through so that it's, But mostly it's supposed to be a pretty straightforward video, so we shouldn't have any issues with. I hope we are all able to see that.
Yes. So shall we say something about wine? I didn't know about that until you pointed it out to me. Wine is an acronym for wine is not an emulator. So it's like a runtime translation of instructions.
Compatibility layer.
For Windows applications, really.
Yeah, go ahead. So this is what you need to do in order to turn the application into runnable on Vine.
And of course, if you do have any questions along the way, you can just jot them down, and then you can always circle back to them and have a feel there about it.
There's your prompt, Daniel.
So with the installation of Wine, we are creating I know most of us probably have an idea about it, but basically we are creating, it allows us the capability of running MDrivenDesigner with the wrapper of a Windows environment. So it literally runs as though it's on a Windows machine. For you to run a specific command, you simply the wine prompt or terminal opens up, you simply type wine and then the actual installer file or the .exe local installer MDrivenDesigner file. So just in case these are not so clear, that's what we're doing here. The rest of the part really is what you see if you're installing MDrivenDesigner local installer on your Windows machine. So there's nothing unique. The only difference is particularly for this one, it was already a running MDrivenDesigner setup.
Yay, very good.
So of course we go ahead later on in the video, which we will upload. I went ahead and tried to run a few tests. Are you able to set up classes, connect to the turnkey server? What is the browser experience like when you're connected to the turnkey server? Are you able to upload cloud via the deploy on the cloud and so on and so forth? So it's pretty interesting, but it gives you the almost the same experience that you would experience on your Windows machine. I will ensure that once we are done editing, this video is available to all of us. But I don't know. In a nutshell, this is mostly what is available. I thought it's interesting. That's part of what has been happening in our camp, and we thought we would share with you.
Damien, you have a question?
I'm assuming you can't run IIS in the Mac world.
Most likely not, but the turnkey server and MDriven server core are both self-contained using their own .NET Core based web servers. And when we use IIS, it's more like a reverse proxy to protect those .NET Core's web servers from malicious attacks and overloading. So
Can fill in or continue. So you can actually run the local turnkey MDriven service here on, and that's what Lydia is going to edit so it's clear in the video, but this continuation is about that. So they run fine on Mac, in Wine, that is, right? But they can also actually run natively. I don't know right now, but they will be able to run on Mac too. But then just when Hans said reverse proxy, I found it a bit surprising how actually IIS runs .NET Core. The .NET Core web service called Kestrel. And so what happens when you run the IIS compatibility plugin, what it does is that it actually starts the Kestrel server. And when a request comes to the IIS, it calls the Kestrel web server within itself, you could say. So it's actually like managing a freestanding mini web server that is running within the process space of IIS. So they've actually just taken the whole freestanding things of .NET Core and wrapped it or put IIS on top and below to handle the requests. So it is possible to run .NET Core Kestrel on Linux, Windows, and Mac too. So it's multi now, and Lydia, she's continuing and will show us in a future episode on how to run this on Docker on both Windows and Linux and Mac. So we will have a Docker desktop and Docker for servers, you could say, for Linux hosts running it, and that gives you the better scalability set, because then you can ask Docker to have one MDriven server and 10 turnkey servers, and then you can even then use another Docker container to run your proxy to come for the traffic from the outside, and then load balancing. And then again, we can then host MySQL, or we can run Postgres SQL Server for hosting the database. So we both look at increased flexibility on the local side, like what Hans is showing, but also much a wider spectrum of deployment options. And so in not that long, you will also find a compatibility matrix of the wiki that we're working, Lydia, I, and Charles, we're working on developing that. So you will see a whole host of different options, because it's not only different operating systems, you also have different processor architectures. So you will be able to say, run it on Windows, running on ARM, in a Docker container that is using Linux inside there. And then you can use this, that's called Docker Compose, which is basically just a way to describe how you want your whole environment to look like, and you can give it that. The plan is then, of course, also to have our service available on Docker for pulling them into. So if you were to go to a cloud provider, you can say, here is my Docker Compose file, and you can say, set this up, and it will pull MDriven server components down and ready that for you to use.
You don't need to use the prompt?
Well, I hope not. Our ultimate goal, if I dream a bit, is that you can basically, there will be a bit of a configurator available on our main site, where you can say what you want it to assemble in your compose file, and it will give you that one to run with the provider of your choice. That could be locally in Docker Desktop, or it can be with a cloud provider that has Docker as one of their setups. There are, of course, many other ways to do it, but we're focusing right now on providing native install on Mac, Windows, and Linux, and Docker for that. And then of course, Azure Web Apps, as we've had before. And then we'll might throw in some Amazon Web Services or other things too. But let's not get too carried away. But the main here
combinatorics are quite staggering when you think about all the different processor architectures and operating systems and cloud providers. It sort of multiplies. So I think we're gonna.
Yes, the grid gets very big. The grid will be big, but there will be a lot of maybe excess or unsupported. You can try it, but we haven't. And then there will be the officially supported configuration setups. But we want to move to a place where, for example, Damien, he has had real struggles with his environment setup. And we want it to be much easier to just get a cloud provider or get a local deployment going with less hassle, which is what everyone wants, of course. But we haven't been able to fully put a lot of effort into deployment help, and we are on it.
And maybe just to add, it's quite promising that the way MDriven is right now, without needing to tweak it a lot, it's able to run on these systems as is. So we've already, of course, tested out. Officially, I think we'll communicate, like Klaus has mentioned. Officially, we'll send out the full communication, but we've already tested Docker Desktop on Mac and MDriven Server and MDriven Designer, and tried it with, let's say, Ubuntu image or container, and it works or responds pretty good. So once we've compiled everything and it's been validated, we can always put it up and communicate for you for the rest of the team or the community to have a run at it and share feedback. But it's so far so good, I would say.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Lydia, and good work with the progress on this. It was fun to see. I think we will, if there aren't any obvious questions, we will round it off here. Lars?
Even non-obvious questions are fine. I know you didn't, but do we have? Yes, Damien, please.
It might be kind of a primitive question, but with Blazor, is that our path forward? Are we going to be doing everything server side. That sort of seems to be the goal of Blazor.
So when it comes to the front end framework and rendering, who is it that data binds the HTML controls in the browser? Historically, we have used Angular and AngularJS and also MVC as two options. MVC is not as well. It's render post back. So that's not so fun and not so modern. And AngularJS was good at data binding in the browser, so that was what we used it for. Then Google said that AngularJS should be something much more Angular. It should be a whole server-side framework with lots of things that we were not that interested in, because we
Client side, I mean.
yeah, but also on the server with the Node.js and putting everything inside there. So that was not for us. And then we started to look what's the way forward. We could have picked any front end framework for rendering, but then when Blazor emerged, we tried that, and that was a really good fit, and that helps us to do less JavaScript and more high-level coding with C# it's much cheaper to maintain and develop. So I would think that going forward, we will in a year's time, I would think that most use Blazor as the primary rendering engine. Then if it's client-side Blazor or server-side Blazor, we support both. So that's really a choice. What's good with server-side Blazor is that it's rather quick and snappy. And of course, client-side Blazor is it takes a bit of load time the first time you need the Blazor or the .NET assemblies downloaded to the client. So I think the server-side things are an interesting approach.
I add on my tests there. So I have an application that is not that super heavy. So just for fun, I started it. You can just change the URL at the top. So if you have your application, you just change it from app, what's it called, dash,
Yeah. So
to Apple, and then what is it then? Apply.
yeah, let's see.
Yeah. So the cool thing is that they behave quite differently performance-wise and how they work. I was surprised how incredibly fast server-side Blazor is. But the cool thing with server-side Blazor is that it's not the stupid old rendering of MVC. It has the modern features of updatability, and so the controls are not dead and boring and crappy. It is basically the same experience as a client side thing, and it behaves a bit different. So I tried it with different amounts of delay in the connection. If you have a really fast connection with low latency and high speed, it's amazing how fast it is. But it kind of becomes a little laggy if you have really big data sets in your browser, if you have a lot of data there, and then go back and forth. Because with server side, you actually have to re-render or have it resent to you. That's not, so it doesn't, as far as I can tell at least, I haven't really dug into the details, Hans, but I don't think it has a client-side cache, right? Which makes sense. So if you're flicking in between pages with a lot of rows, the client side is quicker at switching. But if you want quick page load of simpler pages that doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of rows or images and stuff, then it's really
so on screen now we have this is the Angular rendering, and you can see the HTML. It's really loaded with the Yeah, with the
Binding information?
instruction on how to bind to the data. And if we turn that into server-side Blazor and watch the same thing, that's much cleaner. It's almost pure HTML and no binding information. Everything is just resolved into HTML. Instead, we see this telling comments, because it leaves spaces where things are temporarily hidden by rules, so that it will find the positions better where to merge the DOM if something that was hidden is turned back on. And this is the client side, and then there's this URL, and that looks exactly the same as the server side when it comes to the rendering. You can't know it by this.
But I found it super cool and interesting to watch these three different rendering mechanisms, basically also showing exactly the same output, and you can use them interchangeably. So what I did was I had these three ones, and you can be logged in all three and with the same user, right? And then you change it in one, and it shows immediately in the other one. So of course they're all connected the same way. So now you have three different basically rendering mechanisms running in parallel.
And things, since it's much cheaper and easier for us to do things in Blazor, we tend to promote that, and maybe new things like sorting is of course available in Angular as well, but what isn't available in Angular is the new filtering mechanism to be able to filter out like Excel. So that's something that we can show next time around.
Mm-hmm. What you mean here is that if you were to develop all these things in JavaScript, you're in for a lot of pain.
Yes.
So why you develop them in
I
C#.
think that's like opioid withdrawal pain level, I think.
I have no
Alright.
clue about that, but okay.
What I've heard anyway.
But good question, Damien. I don't know, was there any follow-up? We got off there on the long talk.
I guess the only other consideration, but I suspect it's a null issue, is of course security, right? So if you're server side, it sounds like that's even more secure because there's even less functionality and or data exposed on the client side, but it's probably a null issue.
It's not a big difference really, because we already filter all the data before it's sent to the client. So the client can't do anything really.
Our security is really at our MDriven server as opposed to our rendering.
The data that exposed on the network is exactly what we have defined on in the view model, and there was a reason for us defining just this, because this is the use case and this is what we want to give to the user, and all the actual actions of muting the data is done server side. So it's I would say no solution is more secure than our solution. Some solutions are equally secure, but this is very behind the iron curtains.
What you can, as a designer, I think the only thing to mention here, or one thing, the most important thing, is that don't put a lot of things into your view model and then you're just hiding them in the UI if they're sensitive. So everything that is collected, so if you want things to be hidden fully so they can't be seen leaked, then you just need to make sure that you don't navigate over, for example here, let's say you have the green one and you have an expression that says value store all instances or something, then all the attributes that are in that blue one will be sent to the client, right? So if you filter that one, the expression, on what can be in the collection, then you're safe. So that's what you do, because nothing is leaked to the client about what data you have. And if you want to see exactly what you have, even the things that are hidden, you just take your view model and you add /debug, and then you'll see exactly the data that is sent to the client. And that is a good way to have an extra look if you need to be careful about that.
Well, I would say too, a good UI rule is less is more, right? So if you can avoid serving up anything to your users, that's a very powerful thing to do. Even if it sometimes means writing a lot more code on the back end just to avoid adding functionality, pathways for trouble for your user. Because if there's a bad path for them to take, they'll do that one first.
All right, we will wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and see you in a month's time, if not sooner.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I don't know why it wouldn't go into debug. Never mind.